What's your sweet spot right now? Like, where are you putting most of your energy and effort?
Probably in education. That's I write quite a bit, not just books, but I write articles and I mentor coaches.
The difference between a master's and a PhD is at a master's level, you're seeking to become a problem solver, but at a doctoral level, you're a problem seeker. How do you situate yourself as the observer of your own training?
Technologies that we have. I don't think that the point of using health monitoring technology is so that they make decisions for us.
Yeah, I agree. I found them to be a distraction. Like, I could tell what my sleep was last night. I don't need to look at my Oura ring for that. So how do you teach that stuff?
How do I teach the interoception? The core of it started with breath control.
Speaking about good decisions, obviously injury and burnout are big problems for operators and for athletes. How do we train them to avoid that?
If you're in the strength and conditioning room, you shouldn't be getting hurt while you're exercising for your thing. But if you do dangerous stuff.
Welcome to the Mark Divine Show. This is more than a show and a podcast. This is a tribe of bold leaders who are committed to growing with courage, resilience, and heart. So if you're here, if that resonates with you, then you're in the right place. You're here to lead with purpose and unlock your potential and the awesome potential of your team and your family. So you're on the right place. You're in the right place. You found your tribe. Let's get busy today with Rob Wilson, who I've known for a while, although I haven't seen you in about 6-7 years, right?
Yep.
Rob?
Yes, sir.
Man, Rob's a health performance educator. He's got over 20 years of experience helping folks build bodies and minds at last. He's worked in some of the most demanding environments imaginable, from pro sports to executive leadership to tactical military units. He's a coach for the Navy SEALs Warrior Fitness Program, has consulted for elite organizations like the UFC Performance Institute and Altus. What's that?
Altus is probably like the gold standard in coaching education and track and field.
Got it. Is it a certifying body? Is that what it is?
It is.
Got it.
Yep.
Awesome. Rob's got a new book, Check Engine Light, Tuning Body and Mind for Performance Longevity. I can't wait to get into that, which brings science and experience to help us all perform better, recover smarter, and stay left of blast. Cool. Thanks for joining me, Rob.
My pleasure.
All the way from Virginia Beach.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Having this fun conversation before we start.
Yeah.
I want to go back there, actually, but I don't think it's on target with what we're supposed to talk about.
No, but it is a good conversation, though.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So I haven't been back to VB since visiting some SEAL buddies of mine. I think it was right after bin Laden was like KIA'd by, by O'Neill. We didn't know. Actually, I was funny. I was in the car with some guys. This is before anyone who knew what was going on. And they're all like, yeah, we know who shot bin Laden. And I was like, really? They said, he'll never say anything about it, right? Like, this guy's a great guy. He's not the kind of guy who's going to be like, I shot bin Laden, You remember that meme that was going around? I shot bin Laden. All the girls were following this guy in the Navy.
I haven't seen that. That's awesome, though.
It was really funny. And then what happened is, like, this guy started getting people, the word got out in the admiral community and the Congress. And so he started getting invited by congressmen to go, talk about the op, and by admirals to go talk about the op. And pretty soon, like, it was out of his control. And it's like, when I look at that situation, it's like, it's super unfortunate because Rob O'Neill now is like, he's like a drunk, sorry, Rob. He's trapped himself into this like singular identity that he can't possibly get out of unless he changes his name. You know what I mean? It's got to be miserable.
I can't imagine it's fun. I don't know him, and I'm not, intimately familiar with his situation. But I know that for a lot of guys, even if they're not famous or infamous, when their time is done, taking off that hat and putting on a new hat is really hard.
Yeah, you work with spec ops and pro sports. It's a big issue. Identity, when your identity gets wrapped up in what you do, instead of who you truly are. And then you transition out of that, right? So special lead operators, but even more magnified, like if you're the all-star.
Yeah.
Amongst all-stars. So like that's where Rob got trapped. And we all know as the team, like he couldn't have accomplished that without the team. And in fact, it was completely random. It's not like in the brief, they're like, okay, Rob, you're going to take the shot because you're the best shooter, which is different than NFL. And even then there's some randomness, just happening in the right place at the right time or whatever. But he just happened to be the guy who was at the front of the train when they rounded the corner, and there's Bin Laden standing in the hall, and he took the shot. Could have been any one of them. And the credit should have gone to all of them. And I think that's where a lot of my teammates had a rub. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't yours to own. You know what I mean? But regardless of that, the transition it's challenging, right? And so you lose your team, you lose that sense of specialness, which is all artificial, by the way. It's part of the story. It's a propped up story, right? When I think of SEALs, we're just normal dudes doing a job. We happen to have good training, but the sense of specialness is a story that you'd be wise not to buy into, right? Because when you get out, you're not so special anymore. You're just a dude, right? And then you add on top of that, obviously, traumatic experiences and the lack of meaningful or not meaningful, but lack of skillful means for how to deal with the traumas. Like for my example there is when I went to Iraq, every day I was meditating, doing breath work. I was visualizing my health and longevity and being home. I was doing my yoga routine. And the SEAL operators, when they get back from an op, they would get on their first-person shooter games, jacking up their nervous systems even more. And a lot of those guys had serious problems, right, after years of combat like that. They didn't have the tools. That's why the Warrior Foundation and the work you're doing, to help with transitioning vets is so important, but it needs to be front-loaded.
I agree.
Not on the tail end, right? Like that's what I try to do with SEAL Fit is to make guys pre-resilient by giving them these skills up front so they had them in combat. Well, dang, I'm 61-year-old now, but I can put in physical workouts in a daily schedule that crushes guys half my age. And I plan to keep doing that for decades more. If you want a lifestyle that defies your age, a great place to start is to add Qualia Senolytic to your wellness routine. I have, and I think it's amazing. Qualia Senolytic does something that science didn't know was possible until 2015. You see, as you get older, your body accumulates something called senescent cells or zombie cells. They no longer do their job, but they linger around wasting energy and sucking up valuable nutrition. And the older we get, the more of these things accumulate. That leads to many of our aging challenges. Slow recovery, low energy, inflammation, joint discomfort, basically just feeling. In 2015, scientists at Scripps and Mayo Clinic discovered a natural plant-derived ingredient that helps your body eliminate these senescent cells. Qualia Senolytic combines 9 of those game-changing ingredients into a simple supplement. And the difference Qualia Senolytic has made for my own aging process has been incredible. I'm living a lifestyle of someone half my age. And part of that is by keeping my senescent cells to a minimum, so my energy and vitality can stay through the roof. So if you want to feel in your prime way longer than you thought possible, try Qualia Senolytic for up to 50% off now. Go to qualialife.com/divine15. Again, Qualia Life, QUALIALIFE.com/divine15, DIVINE15. And use that code divine15 at checkout for an extra 15% off. Qualia is backing their products with a 100-day money-back guarantee. I know the owners of this company, they're phenomenal. This product is phenomenal, as are all their products. So again, Qualia Senolytic, get it to age better. Go to qualialife.com, divine15. Use the code divine15 for an extra 50% off on top of the 50, and also to help feel in your prime for years to come. Hoo-yah.
Yeah. Well, just think about how much training guys get on the front end, even prior to being sent to your first platoon. Right. It's, 56, 58 weeks. We talk about pre-buds, buds, SQT.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's more than a year. It's longer than a year. And then you go to your platoon, and you're getting more training,
12 to 18 months.
And so all this training for the job, which is, and I've never done the job. This is all what's been told to me, but all really necessary. And then continuing to train all the time, unless you're on mission task.
Right.
All training all the time. And all very task specific,
Right.
but not nearly as much education is put on the left side of how do you take care of the sort of the human system that you're inside of first. How do you prolong, and I call it performance longevity, right? Like how do you structure your thinking and habits and tools that you have so that not only can you be the best operator in this case as possible during time, but then after, is there something left in the tank?
Maintain that balance and, the thrive, to be able to thrive before, during, and after. Are they doing anything more nowadays with that education and embedding it into the pipeline training, or?
I'm not certain. I know I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and he was saying that in SQT, I think there was like a week human performance block where S&C coaches and I think what exactly is put into that block depends on what the cadre decides is appropriate, and whenever that rotates, it probably changes. I don't know the intimate details of that. One thing I would like to do, a goal of mine is, because everything that I do now is on, at least in the middle or the right side of career time for guys, just because of the context that I deliver my material in. But a goal that I have is to get this farther and farther left. Yeah,
it's interesting because even though I haven't been contracted to do anything on the front end or through training, but with SEAL Fit we were training a lot of the guys pre-buds, right? So it was prep training. And we were teaching these pre-resiliency skills, breath control, the unbeatable mind stuff, breath control, visualization, mindfulness, yoga even. At the beginning, I couldn't even call it yoga. Guys would cross-eyed, but now they full on embrace yoga. And so it's kind of like guerrilla warfare. A lot of these guys thrived at buds. 90% success rate of our SEAL Fit trainees getting through buds. And then they would come back as instructors because we've been doing it since 2006. And so they've started to just from the bottom up embed these practices and normalize these practices. So even though the institution hasn't really brought them in, the individuals have.
Yeah, well,
it's like guerrilla warfare.
That's what
because
needs
it
to
works.
happen,
Guys will always do what works, right?
Yep.
Regardless of what the head shed says.
And then that's what needs to happen. Really, the operators in this case, or really in any organization, the people who are sort of
closest to the
to the demand are going to find best practice. And if leadership is wise, then they observe what people that are close to the action are doing and what's working, and then find ways to systematize it so it works more efficiently.
Right. You've been in human performance for a long time. What's your sweet spot right now? Where are you putting most of your energy and effort besides writing a great book, which we're going to talk about a bit?
Thank you. Probably in education. Yeah, that's I write quite a bit, not just books, but I write articles and I mentor coaches and teach coaches inside of education programs. So
physical training coaches,
strength and conditioning coaches, and then I'll go to whether it's corporate, mill, fire, and give organizational presentations. So I'm about 24 years into my career. So I'm sort of, at least at this phase, mostly doing training the trainer, education type work. But I still have, sort of a stable of clients and athletes.
Do you have a training center that you still run, or do you do?
No, I had a CrossFit gym for 15 years with my wife, and COVID came.
You lasted longer than us. We lasted 10 years.
Yeah,
with US CrossFit.
Right. Yeah, I loved being in the gym, and I loved the community.
It's a great learning experience.
Yeah, being around it made me a very good coach because I had the opportunity to coach so many different types of people under very difficult time constraints. So my cueing language and being able to see things got very, very tight. But the business of running an affiliate is draining. At least it was for us. And it can be very limiting. It's very constraining. And so COVID came, and honestly, we were looking for an exit, and we were like, okay. And we're very fortunate, not because I did anything awesome. My wife is very smart. So we had like no debt in the gym. Like we owned everything outright. So we literally just like, and dumped equipment and we're out like in
what a relief
10,
that
like
must
10 or 14 days. Something
Is that
like
right?
that. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, she did all that. Like my wife is a force. So
Awesome.
Once we made the decision, it was like, I don't want to make it sound like I did anything spectacular. I was already traveling. I was teaching seminars. I was on the road. So she was
running the place.
Yeah, she did that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And so within strength and conditioning, I mean, even our knowledge around those best practices and kind of the leading edge stuff, what is it that's kind of leading edge right now that you've learned? I know a lot about, a lot more information about recovery methodologies, sleep.
Yeah, I think,
what's the bleeding edge?
I think everybody's really switched on as far as tools are concerned, as far as tech is concerned. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, if you were talking about sleep or different breathing or any of these recovery technologies, few and far between knew about it. Fewer still were actually deploying methods successfully. Now, boy, you Google, sleep protocol and you get 500.
Right.
And that's actually the new thing. So the new thing is sense making. So we're overwhelmed. We're drowning in a sea of data and information. So in human performance and in health right now, I think the real value isn't in adding, it's knowing what to cut.
Right.
And finding what are the legitimate and sustainable leverage points. And that most of the fancy stuff is just fancy stuff.
Yeah, it's noise.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting also that what you just said is yes, but it's also going to be slightly different for everybody. So that's the personalization of the right tools is probably a huge, which you get with one-on-one coaching, but it's when it comes to like strength and conditioning programs, corporate fitness programs.
I mean, it can be difficult to scale it, right? Yeah. To scale individualization. And the only way you can legitimately scale individualization, in my opinion, is not necessarily with more and more invasive technologies, but with a more and more educated populace.
Yes. Interesting.
So
tell me more.
As people get a better understanding of how to monitor themselves, so increase their own awareness.
Yeah, their own self-awareness.
Yeah, and you can develop your own toolkit because you understand what your needs are more effectively. So you go, oh, well, I'm actually driving this way. So I need tools that help me go that direction.
Interesting.
Like a first.
So where my mind is going, instead of just teaching like a new movement pattern or skill or how to use a new tool for tracking, whatever, you're teaching them actually like proprioception and interoception skills so they become more self-aware so they can become their own diagnostic.
Exactly. And I think that doesn't mean we replace subject matter experts. What ends up happening is if you're not a subject matter expert in health and performance, but you're educated about what's going on with you and you have some sense of how to interpret whether it's internal information or information from a technological device, you can ask better questions of people who do have expertise and can give you assistance in further interpretation. And then it becomes about chasing better questions, weeding through, as you said, getting rid of noise in the system, and then iterating faster and faster and smoother and smoother. Right?
That's interesting. When I went and did my PhD, one of the things that kind of I smiled at and stuck with me is like the difference between a master's and a PhD is at a master's level, you're seeking to become a problem solver. But at a doctoral level, you're a problem seeker. And what you just described is you want to become your own problem seeker before it becomes a problem. And so that requires, like you said, how do you situate yourself as the observer of your own training as opposed to just a consumer of training.
Yeah. Well, and when I say this,
And when I say observer, I mean sense maker too, which is
exactly. And I don't think that means we don't have to demonize or disregard technological tools that we have, because they're helpful. Things like,
but they can be a crutch too.
They can be a crutch, and they can add noise to the system. What can be helpful though is they can give you some way to calibrate the perception that you have. Right. So that's what I think of as the position of technologies that we have. I don't think that the point of using health monitoring technologies is so that they make decisions for us. I don't think that that's a good.
No.
I don't think that's a good path to be on. It's very fragile.
I agree.
Right?
I think one of the best uses or use cases for technology, especially in a group setting, is the data that you accumulate as a coach, to be able to use that data to mine it for trends and outliers. And so it's actually, I think, ultimately more useful for the coach than it is the individual. But then that should circle back to better training for the individual.
Exactly.
I've long ago stopped wearing any kind of wearables because I found them to be a distraction. Like, I could tell what my sleep was last night. I don't need to look at my Oura ring for that. You know what I mean? And heart rate and everything like that. But that's back to the teaching myself interoception and, really being sensitive enough to really understand, how my body's functioning. So how do you teach that stuff?
Well, how do I teach the interoception?
Self-awareness, right?
I mean, really,
From the witness of your own body in real time.
The core of it started with breath control.
Yeah.
Right. And breath awareness. That for
you
sure.
were teaching that with Brian through his program, right?
Yeah, that's been a more than a decade long. And that really circles back to, I studied yoga in college, and then through college, and I was a very deep practitioner. I still do sun salutation every day. So 25 years probably I've done sun salutation every day. My sister and I have this, like we said, and I borrowed this from Alex Oliver, right, who is from VHP, no zeros. So every day, that's the minimum. The minimum is I got up and I did sun salutation. So, but breath was really the first sort of legitimate monitoring system for humans, I think. That was one of the very first things that we systematized. And through doing human performance work, and then especially I was working with active duty operators in GWAT, and guys were having trouble.
That's the global war on terror. For those who don't know what GWAT is,
I'm just so used to that terminology, but a lot of guys were having trouble transitioning to sleep.
Yeah,
right? And they're like, "Man, I can't rest." And I was like, "I got something that can help." Right? It was disguised as free diving training at the time, but whatever. It's breathing's breathing for the most part, right? So, but what ended up happening was they started to become more aware of other aspects of how their physiology was responding to other things, and the integration of technology into that dashboard was for the purpose of calibration. Like, are we on the right track?
Such as heart rate variability?
Heart rate variability. And I still use these things like heart rate variability, resting heart rate, some breathing exercises. I've used things like spirometers for breathing.
I have no idea what that is.
Spirometer basically is
what you blow into?
You blow into, and it tells you your expiratory volume.
Yeah, your volume is. Yeah, those could be good training actually to improve your volume too. Remember that little device we used to use? I forget it. That you could dial up the resistance.
That's Boss's? That's Boss Rutan's. I think that's Boss Rutan's O2 trainer.
Maybe
from back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
In the early
but there's
MMA
someone who commercialized
time.
it. They didn't call it that. It came in as it was like a little blue whistle almost. I mean,
I know which one you're talking about.
I can't remember. We sold that at NavySeals.com back in the day.
Yeah, that's a. Man,
it's pretty hard,
That's
actually.
a callback, yeah.
Yeah, it was a callback, but that was like a good workout.
Yeah, that thing will make your ribs sore.
Exactly.
Yeah, that thing will make your ribs sore.
You're strengthening all the muscles and the diaphragm, and actually really good training, by the way.
Yeah, I can still remember the first time my diaphragm got sore from training it
You
like a
didn't even know
real
you could get
skeleton.
sore,
I did not know it could get sore. And it's really, and I like say this, I know like when I hear myself say this, I sound like such a like breathing is everything. But
it all comes back to breathing.
But if you spend some legitimate time, real time, strengthening those muscles the way you would strengthen other skeletal muscles, the exponential benefit
it's huge.
It's hard to describe.
It's kind of like an asymmetrical investment, right?
It really is.
Asymmetrical investment in your health.
It really is.
The other, and this is why I love hearing you talk about sun cells, the other asymmetrical investment is investment in spinal health. So if you do sun salutation and twists every single day, like I do a 20-minute routine that I've developed, I do it with my wife every single day. It's like dental floss for the spine and my joints. But spinal health is what allows the energy to flow up through the nadis, the Sushima, Pindala and Nida. And that is what essentially that leads into the energy flowing through the chakra systems and radiate out into the energy body, which is the blueprint for the physical body.
Are you familiar? Have you ever heard the Chinese? There's a Chinese adage, which is you're only as old as your spine. That's one of my favorites.
I have not heard that, but I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So spinal health and then breath work.
And they're
completely
crossed over. Yep, I agree.
When it comes to breath work for performance, everyone's all gaga about Wim Hof. And you know that I've been, I'm like the OG introducing just slow, controlled box breathing for homeostatic balance, calm alertness as a practice, which then becomes a gateway to more deeper mental development, right? Concentration training, mindful awareness, witnessing. It's extraordinarily effective. But what have you found to be really effective in your domain for breath work?
So it would depend on the individual. So that's one thing I like that. I've really learned is that some of this is my own bias, but it's the context that I work in. I have access to individuals. So, but I always start with what's the outcome that you're driving for first. So in performance environments, and this, right? You're a SEAL, you've been around special operations community. People who are high performers temperamentally are driven towards high turnover action. I want to feel a result now.
Yeah, that's Wim Hof.
Yeah, that's and that's why it's so popular, because whatever the arguments are for or against, when you do it, you feel something.
Yeah, you get a sympathetic, intense
you feel like,
reaction.
Wow, my body can feel different. And I think a lot of people, especially probably 10 years ago when Wim, or maybe 6 years ago, Wim was at his peak of sort of public awareness, started there because they could feel breath work doing something. Even if they couldn't really articulate its value, they knew it, like they felt different, and then kept searching. But I think the first thing is identify the outcome. What's the thing that you're trying to get at here? What are you trying to do? And then we can talk about which one. And in performance environments, because I know high performers want to feel a change, I tend to give them something that will help their focus immediately during like high chaotic situations. They'll be able to feel the change in their brain right away. And sometimes that's like, I use terms like power exhalations or pulsing exhalations, where there's a really hard drive of air out of the system. Exactly. And even if nothing magical happens with their heart rate, what you do feel is
it locks in.
Your brain locks in.
Called like an etch-a-sketch for the brain.
Exactly. It locks right in. I'm back in what I'm doing, right? And great. So that's very palpable. And then also showing like, okay, you can recover from high effort faster. And that's in high performance environments, and athletes and high performers tend to grab onto that first. Then they believe me. Right? They're like, oh, I can, this makes me feel different.
Yeah.
Great. Now you believe me? How about we do resonance breathing so you can recover better and fall asleep more easily. It's not as sexy. You don't feel you don't feel like jazzmatazz from it, right?
Yeah.
But
you're not going to have any mystical experience.
Yeah, the timeline of its effect is much longer.
Right.
And I think that's, for people in general, I think human beings have a really hard time with sort of like temporal reality. We have a really hard time seeing past really a couple weeks of effect. And you see this with all kinds of things. Exercise, right? Somebody who's not very fit, they start doing some fitnessing and they have a very rapid change because they didn't start with much. And it by nature gets slower.
That's right.
And then they go, oh, this doesn't
It's not
work.
working any longer.
Yeah, and it's like, well,
And then
it's
quit.
still working, but it's going to take longer to work. And so then we're in the patience game, right? So I like to
That's a
start
really
with-
good point.
with buy-in.
I just want to pause and like reinforce that point, right? You have to look at training not as a sprint. You might have sprints, right, for a peak performance event, but it's a long game, right? It's a lifetime game. And first of all, if you're doing one kind of training protocol, you're going to experience diminishing returns, but it's still working until you get into a state where you're maintaining. And at that point, it's a good idea to introduce something new.
Yeah.
Right? So then you'll have a lot of benefit, and then the same thing will happen. Diminishing returns until now you're maintaining. And so what was really good about CrossFit was Glassman's idea of constant variance, variety, change it up, right? But if you're an athlete that's training for something, the variety has to be supportive of where you're going.
Yeah. And, I think
It's a little bit tricky. So that's why it's really,
there's a lot of ways to vary. And I think sometimes, at least in my experience, strength and conditioning coaches think that variance has to be these like grand movements. But sometimes variance is just, I modify the environment
the rep scheme.
just very slightly, right? I change the tool a little bit. And I think probably Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell was the master of understanding. So it's like, okay, well, he would do things like, well, we squat every week, but we're going to change the bar. We're going to put bands on the bar. We'll put chains on the bar. So there was all these little modulations. They don't have to be these grand changes where the workout is completely different or it's not similar enough that it's representative of the stimulus you're trying to get. But there could be these small modifications. Okay, last week it was 30 seconds. This week it's 40. And it's important to understand when we talk about in human performance, when we talk about variance, that the environment is always varied.
True.
We're never the same.
That's right. You're not the same, and the environment's not the same every time.
I'm not the same. Well, if I do a workout and I do it last week, and I got 8 hours of sleep, of beautiful sleep for 5 nights in a row before I did that workout, that's different. I'm different than if I fly across the country to California for a podcast. Like I do jujitsu. Like I'm a devoted jujitsu practitioner. When I do jujitsu at home and everything's on schedule for 2 months.
Yeah, you're in the groove.
Well, I'm in the groove, and what that feels like. Then when I travel back and forth across the states, even though the intensity, quote unquote, of the class that I'm in might be low, the way it's affecting me is different because I'm different.
Yeah.
And so I think those kind of things are important. And whether it's working with elite performers like operators or just people who are trying to be healthy, fit for the long term, they don't really have an understanding of that. And it's not because anything's wrong with them. It's not their training, right? So what I try to do is bring an understanding of those variables that's tacit to human performance training, right? If you had training as a coach, or if you've been involved in a practice like yoga for a long time, where the point is constant development of layers of awareness, you become privy to that kind of information much more easily. But most people haven't been training themselves to think like that, except for maybe in a very narrow domain of expertise. And so what I'm trying to bring with everybody that I work with is an understanding of how these contextual things shift over time, and that what we all must do if we want to get the most out of our health and longevity is learn to pay attention to the way all those things sort of mix together, so that we can make good decisions. Yeah.
Speaking about good decisions, obviously injury and burnout are big problems for operators and for athletes. So how do we train them to avoid that, or to manage that?
You know, I think injury, there's a couple things with injury. One is I don't think injury in elite performance environments is preventable. Now, if you're in the strength and conditioning room, you shouldn't be getting hurt while you're exercising for your thing. But if you do dangerous stuff, there's risk of being hurt. Not only because, for example, like operators are doing, even in training, risking life in training, right? It's dangerous to jump out of a plane, no matter how good the systems are. It's dangerous, right? And so there's that part where there's real-time acute risk, but there's also the buildup of stress load over time, because those high-performance environments by their nature are so demanding. That's why only 1% of all of us can do it, because only the most robust among us get selected to do those things, right? Whether we're talking about the NFL or you're talking about the SEAL teams, a very, very small percentage of people can hack it long enough to take the hits that it takes to get there, right? And so those things self-select for the most robust humans. And so what happens is allostatic load or stress load, right, builds up over time. And then we have a moment that something pops and we go, oh, it just happened. It's like, well, now what should be happening is there should be intelligent screening systems. And there often are, right? There's some intelligent screening systems that go, hey, we got to watch this. Like
the load's building up in this area.
Right? Like, we got to, even if we don't back off, we have to mitigate what's going on here and be careful. So I think,
and that's that's more than just physical, right? It's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual.
What's the difference?
Like our 5 mountains. They're all just different aspects of a being. So one person can be experiencing their overload emotionally.
Absolutely.
Which could lead to injury. And another person might be, off purpose. So let's call it a spiritual overload, or confused and lost their vision. And that leads to an injury. So it's not just physical, right?
Well, all those variables are part of a very complex system that makes up a human being, and all this interrelationship between all these moving parts that are changing all the time. And so when they're not working together, when one thing starts to get overloaded, or for whatever reason, something in the person's history or something that's going on in their present life, or relationship stress, one of those components starts to get weakened, and it becomes the weak link in the chain.
Critical node.
It's the critical node. Great. That's a great phrase.
Yeah.
Totally stealing that.
You got that. No charge.
Man, there's no TM on that, is there? No, great. Yeah. So this critical node, right, starts to become volatile. And then what happens is, as the total stress load on the system gets higher, maybe it's their hamstring, or maybe it's that this individual is distracted in a moment when they should be more attentive.
I think it's like Simone Biles, right? Is it her, Simone Biles? No, who was the gymnast that had the mental issues at the...
No, that's Simone Biles. Yeah, where she was like, hey, I'm taking a seat.
Yeah, she had a mental breakdown, and she was open about it. It was like, something's going on here. She was under a lot of pressure, whatever. And so she ended up having to really attend to that, like her mental toughness, and go figure out what's going on. And she did, and she came back and won again next time around. That was a great example, by the way, I think, of she really modeled something, especially for female athletes. It's okay to not pretend that you're okay when you're mentally suffering. I think a lot of guys could learn from that too, because, we're especially operators, we have to pretend that everything's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
rarely is it.
Some of that, some of that's of course, there's some of that around culture,
right?
And anything that's sort of warrior culture adjacent is, even if nobody says to you directly, hey, Mark, hide your pain. Maybe that's never something that is said explicitly. No. But what happens is...
Well, it was said to us. Suck it up, buttercup. Embrace this stuff. Suffer in silence. That was a big one. We heard that all the time. Suffer in silence.
And you think about
okay, I can do that.
What is the the purpose of that pipeline is combat readiness. It's
Right.
it's to go to a place that's completely unpredictable and volatile, where everything that's not on your side wants to kill you. That's sort of the generalized assumption,
much, yeah.
right? And so that's what you're preparing for. So under those conditions, an appropriate response might be, keep that shit to yourself right now. We got stuff to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
However, not all contexts reward that.
Right.
And so if you're building up this like knot of angst in the center of your chest, what might happen is in a moment that's not context appropriate, it breaks free and what comes out is rage.
Right.
And that gets guys in trouble, whether it's because, and I don't just mean operators. This happens
Or it doesn't come out and they mask it with like an extreme alcohol. Or
exactly.
substance
So
abuse.
the highest performing people are the best compensators. Whether it's physically, I'll find a way around it. I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I've definitely had guys who they had a long-standing torn rotator cuff. They couldn't put their hand behind their back, and I asked them, like, how are you opening a parachute? And they're like, well, I'm grabbing my hand with my other hand. I'm shoving it back there, and then I'm deploying my shoe.
Get out of
because
here.
it's get the job done. That's a real conversation
Right.
that I've had, getting it done. And that same level of compensatory action can happen, especially with high-performing people. I'm just going to find a way around it. I'm going to find a way to deal with it, whether that's a substance or some other behavior that I take on, so I can keep going and stay focused on that thing out there.
Right.
Under some conditions, that works, and under some conditions, it might even be right.
Yeah.
But then we talk about long timelines again. That starts to become a habit that's used to solve problems in all contexts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shove it away. I'm going to push it away. I don't want to talk about it. And this isn't just
I'm going to
operators.
force it. Yeah.
A lot of men in general. I don't want to talk about it. You know, I'm keeping that to myself. Don't worry.
Or it's
I
not a
got
big
this.
deal.
It's not a
Right.
big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what happens? It all builds up, and it either comes out against others or against ourselves. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like, you know what? I'm not all right. I can't remember who I was talking to recently, but I said, what, can you imagine if like you were trying to build a table or something and you didn't have all the tools you needed? You're like, oh man, I don't have all the tools. You'd go to the hardware store and you'd be like, hey, I need, I'm not really sure. I'm trying to build this table. Here's the dimensions. And you walk up to somebody who works and you go, what tools do you recommend for this that I can try so I could build this table? Nobody would feel bad about that. Right. But when it comes to like what's going on inside of us, sometimes we just don't have the tools. It doesn't mean a person is broken.
Yeah, or bad.
Or bad. It just means I don't have the tools to deal with this.
Interesting.
So why not find somebody who does? Yeah. Oh man, and you might have to go a couple places before you find who has the tools that jive with you.
Just having these conversations is actually a tool. Yeah. Because, our father's generation and certainly their parents, like, they didn't talk about anything. And you were supposed to suck it up, right? And you weren't supposed to wear your emotions on your sleeve. And you weren't, if it was something to do with like an emotion, you weren't supposed to ask for help. You're supposed to figure it out. And so it wasn't safe to talk about. Again, especially for guys. So I think it's only been the last like 5 to 10 years where I'm seeing a much more willingness for guys to actually, oh yeah, I'm going to go get a therapist, and I need to go talk about this and get some help. So this is good news, right?
Yeah.
So the work you're doing, I've been doing this and promoting, emotional development for years. And so you got a physical coach, right? You have no problem with a fitness coach, and you have no problem with an executive coach or a leadership coach. Why not have an emotional coach? In fact, if EQ and your emotional stability is at the center post of success for all these other domains, wouldn't that be the first one you get?
Yeah. One of the things we talk about in my check engine light class when I share this information with operators is like empathy. I talk about empathy, but I weave it in to the team context. So I'm like, okay, so REM sleep, for example, insufficient REM sleep has been shown to correlate with emotional dysregulation over time, and even specifically reduction in empathy. right? And so I talk about this idea of empathy. I'm like, okay, when we talk about empathy, what I don't mean is I give less dollars to homeless people,
Right.
right? What I mean is, can I take on the perspective of another? And I'm like, if you work with a group of people who trust you, or you have a family member, or you have to negotiate terms of a contract, it'd be probably really helpful if you could see another person's point of view and take it into account while making important decisions. No? Of course, everybody agrees with that. And I'm like, okay, so if you're in this room and you happen to be in a career where working really well as part of a team, wink, wink, is important, developing empathy as a
And
leadership
you trace
trait
that back to sleep.
might be really important.
Right.
And so we talk about it in the context of sleep, but also, what if you don't have access to that? What part of the brain is on? And when are you supposed to build that spider web of sort of sense making and meaning that comes with my interactions with others? And I'm like, man, even if you don't have perfect sleep right now, maybe you should just like walk your dog with your phone off for 10 minutes a day and just like
Relax.
be a human out in the world and just kind of let your brain organize itself. And an outcome of that is it will start to put pieces together for you because it has a chance to.
Right.
And that's actually emotionally regulating.
Right.
It's not like I necessarily sit and like weep over every nasty thing that's ever happened. It might be, but
no, you're right. Like the perception is that doing the emotional work and developing empathy is going to make you a doormat, right? And you're going to lose your toughness.
I haven't found that at all personally.
It's not true. I'm just saying, but you haven't found that perception, or you haven't found.
No, I haven't found that for myself.
Yeah,
so
no.
when I made a real commitment to do that, what I found was
you get stronger
I'm stronger psychologically and physically.
for sure.
I'm much more robust. I get along better with my spouse.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
We disagree in better ways.
Right.
So this doesn't mean we agree all the time just because I'm more empathetic, but I can see her point of view so that when I'm communicating how I'm disagreeing, it's so that we come to some consensus that moves our household forward.
Right.
Not I'm locked in my position because I don't want to lose.
Right.
And
The
that's a terrible
polarities
way.
soften.
Yeah.
And you kind of lead from the middle where you're like, oh, yeah, because you can take the perspective. And empathy doesn't mean just like intellectually take that perspective. It's mean to be able to feel into it. Like, oh, I see where you're coming from. It's not my lived experience, but I can see how it's yours. Yeah. So let's come to some compromise. Or
that opens you to learning.
Right.
Right. At least that's been my experience. It opened me to learning. It put me in a much more humble place. Yeah. So the access, in like a really palpable way, the access to information that I had from the social environment has been way exponentially escalated because I'm much more aware of how are other people trying to interact with me, what's my response to them, and it's not that I'm intellectualizing it, but in real time, I've gotten much better at sort of dancing.
I'm thinking this in the context of spiritual development. What's happening is that the walls of separation are softening and then dissolving. And you begin to experience all of this as happening within the field of consciousness, as opposed to you're over there and I'm over here, and we're two objects kind of clashing in this world of time and space. That's a natural outcome of practices like breath work, if you do them over a sustained period of time. Like breath work is the bridge between body, mind, and spirit, ultimately connecting the three. And then it becomes a meditative practice, which then opens you up. Meditation opens you up. Basically, like I look at meditation from two perspectives. One is to basically bring the entire intelligence faculties of your body all online and to be integrated so that you can perceive more and make sense of it. You talk about sense making. So brain, heart, mind, gut, mind, nervous system, fascia, skin, all your senses, it all is your mind. And we think of mind as just the cognized meaning making. No, it's all your mind. Body and mind are not separate, right? In fact, the only way you can experience your body is with mind. body wouldn't exist to you were it not for mind. So it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other way I look at meditation or these mental training skills is it's basically making what's unconscious conscious. And most people, I think I've heard 95% of people's thoughts, actions, behaviors are unconscious or subconscious, right below conscious awareness. So meditation, because of this ability to bring more of your perceptual capacities online and to make meaning of them, suddenly you begin to surface all these things that were like patterns, beliefs, conditioning that were below your level of consciousness, and suddenly you become aware of them. And then you're able to relate to others because you're so much more aware of all these biases and conditionings and things that used to like lead to like reactionary and damaging relationships. Like, oh wow, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
So it's so important, this work, not just for physical performance, but for everybody, for life performance.
Yeah, I agree. And I think functionally, it doesn't, I think one of the misnomers has been in the performance community is that some people would say like, well, this guarantees like a win on game day. But that's not what it's for. There's too many things outside of our control to know that outcome. We don't control the universe.
It will help
like
you
that.
how you respond to the situation if and when you lose.
Yes.
Including when you win, right?
And what it will help you do is to bring the resources that you have on that day
Right.
to bear effectively.
More effectively, yeah. With more awareness.
With more awareness. Yeah. That is what it's for. And to understand the way that you use energy.
Right.
And when I say that quite literally, right? Because body and mind are one thing, right? Psychological energy and emotional energy is physical energy.
That's right.
Right. So,
and it shows up as mood, as attitude, right? As focus, right?
Tell me your body doesn't feel better when you're in a good mood than when you're in a bad mood.
Right.
Come on. Like everybody knows this intuitively, but these technologies can help us more effectively harness those realities. And there's internal ancient technologies that human beings have been developing for a very long time that are effective. And we now, because we're a secular culture and we're very science-based, which is fine, it's great, they're validated.
We're finally validating.
We're
Most of them.
validated. But
like breath work is finally being validated because it's very physiologically expressive.
But people who have been doing it for 2,000 years,
they don't
like,
need the
thanks.
validation.
Thank
thanks.
you. You guys
like,
are really
yeah,
late.
like here a great example that I was just talking about this morning is, the 6 breaths per minute, right? We've been teaching that since 2006, and people have been teaching that for years and years and years and years and years.
It's a very basic
Right? It's
pranayama
super
practice.
basic pranayama, and they've known for thousands of years over there, like that is the ideal breathing pattern for optimal health, longevity, clarity, mental
I
stability,
love
essentially. But
translating
we're just
yoga words
validating
for
that.
people, right? I go, okay, like if I'm talking to a person, I'm like, man, you guys, let's talk about breathing, like pranayama, and then you feel like and I'm like, it means energy control or breath
control the life force, right?
I'm like, it's literally just control your energy.
Yeah,
with
wouldn't you
your
want to
breath.
control your energy? Yeah,
like-
it makes sense.
I'm like,
I tell the story when I started teaching SEAL trainees, breath work and yoga and whatnot. I use Sanskrit terms too. I'd call it pranayama and yoga, and they would be like, "No, can't do this. Sorry," And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't know. It's just woo-wee. I don't get it, or it's against my religion. So I called it taking the foo out of the kung fu. I had to basically strip all that shit out and come up with a practical explanation and a story from my experience as to why this is useful. And as soon as I did that, they're like, got it. This is great. Tell me more.
has to be culturally.
It's got to be culturally appropriate and relatable. And if anything, the innovation I did with Unbeatable Mind, and you probably did with HPT or whatever you call your work now, was to make these ancient practices contextually appropriate and relatable, and then to backfill the science as that came online. That's a huge contribution. It really is. So good job.
Same
And
deal.
we're just getting warmed up.
Yeah, it's getting warmed up.
You know?
Yeah,
Isn't it funny though? Now that people are making millions of dollars off of breath training.
it's wild.
Like I haven't sold breath like as a standalone thing ever. And I'm like the OG when it comes to box breathing. I wish I had trademarked that or something.
Should have.
Copyrighted.
Too late.
Too late now.
It's out there now. ChatGPT's got it.
Exactly. ChatGPT is taking everything. What surprised you? Like you went, my experience to back up, whenever I write a book, like I have like, yeah, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to present my knowledge. But when I get into the book, like I have all sorts of epiphanies and it must be channeling. New shit comes to me, new distinctions, new models, things that kind of surprise me. So what surprised you in writing Check Engine Light?
One, that just like everything else, something that you're really excited about is just work.
It's
just work. Everything's just work. I had somebody ask me like, man, how'd you write this book? And I'm like, I sat down every day and wrote it.
a lot of work. Yeah.
Like it's just work. The research, the amount of research, if you really care about the accuracy of what you're writing, how much research goes into it. So the work was, and I knew thought I knew how much work.
How long did it take you to write this?
In total, it was about a year and a half or so, but I wrote the first 3 chapters in like a sitting.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like
a total dump, total flow
it was
state.
in there. And really, the book told me.
That's kind of like your first few weeks of fitness, right? Hey, I'm making great gains. And all of a sudden,
and then
it
was like yeah. And then, what's really surprised me too is my background is in teaching movement, right? I'm a strength and conditioning coach by trade. It was the hardest chapter for me to write. And it was because I was editing.
Sometimes you know too much.
I was like, what am I going to put in here? I actually wrote the entire chapter, probably 17,000 words I wrote, and then I threw it all away and started from scratch.
Several times.
And I was just like so mad. I tried to just manipulate it and it was getting so contorted. And I was like, this is worse. So and I'm like, this should just fly out of me. No, that was really, that surprised me how hard of a time I had with that chapter in particular, but I loved it. Like I'm going to do another one, at least a couple more. Like I just
good for you. Yeah.
I got more to share.
You either have that experience, it's more likely that people are like, that was worse than giving birth. I'm never doing that again. You know what I mean? So you get a lot of one and done authors. Yeah. But if you really feel like you grew from it, like I feel like I grew from every one of my books. And so then, you just need a little recovery and then you can come back and do it.
And I think, it's important.
And you're writing more for you, right? Like I've stopped really caring like if a book is a bestseller or something like that, because it's really not about that. It's about like this need to get information out of you, to share it with the world. Even if it's one person.
I've wanted to write a book for some time, but I was resistant to write this book, and it kept telling me that it was a book, like it was in there, and I had some doubts. I had some self-doubt. If you ever read like the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield,
sure.
I had the resistance was in there, right?
Right.
Who are you? What's your knowledge of this? Oh, you're gonna be another person who writes about working with SEALs, blah blah blah. And so it was just like all this bullshit.
At least you have the credibility to back that up.
Swimming around in my head, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit down and start typing what's in here, and then the dedication to the book is the first thing I wrote. I was like, that was an anchor point for me, and people who are not elite performers or, people like Navy SEALs can benefit from the book. But when I sat down, the avatar who I was thinking about were these like hundreds of guys that I've worked with over the last few years. And I'm like, if the only thing that comes from this book is that
helping the operators,
is that our warfighters stay healthier and they get left of blast, I win. So I'm like, who am I talking to when I'm writing this?
And left of blast is a reference to where it's the hard work's behind them. Now the work or the operatings behind them. Now their work is transitioning and thriving.
Yeah. So
I
really wanted to, that's what I had in mind. And then I wanted to be true to that. And I started writing, and like I said, the first chunk came out at once. And then I was like, man, there might be something here. I wonder if anybody would be interested. So I kind of started buzzing it around, and here we are.
Did you self-publish it, or do you have a mainstream?
I had a publisher, Fremont Press, which is a subsidiary of Victory Belt.
Okay.
So Victory Belt's, published a lot of health and fitness.
Right.
Yeah, it's great.
It's awesome.
Great experience.
And when to come out, or is it out?
June. Yeah, it's June this year. Yeah.
Check Engine Light, turning body and mind for performance longevity. Awesome. Well, I can't wait for my copy.
Yes, sir. It's coming.
Drop it in the mail.
Yeah. I'll send you a signed copy for sure.
Where can people reach out to you if they want to, convince you to write another book or come speak to them or whatever?
Easiest place to find me is Instagram, social media. So at the Check Engine Light. I have a Substack as well. So I write about an article a week, and I've been doing so for about 2 years.
Really? How do you like that? I'm started a Substack finally.
I really like Substack because I can do it all on my own terms.
Right.
It's very writer friendly.
Yeah.
Like you could tell it's made for writers. It's so easy to use. It's so easy to publish, so easy to track things. I've really found it pleasant. But I have a Substack article comes out every week. That's also Check Engine Light.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's the easiest ways for people to find me, and that's free. So there's no.
People can connect to you through Substack too, right? Or at least comment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So people often will start reading my Substack articles and then comment on an article or send me a note.
Do you do the subscription, or is it all just free?
You subscribe to it, but it's free.
You don't have a paid subscription. Some people do that.
No, I haven't done that as of yet. And for me, I just
probably wouldn't.
Yeah, and I like a little bit of for that. For me and what I use it for, I like to explore ideas that are outside of like, here's your 5 toe touch exercises every week or whatever. I kind of want to explore. That's sort of where I'm like playing with ideas, and I like to see how people are responding to it and who read it, and I use it as a monitoring system or probing system for ideas that I'm working with, and it's very useful in that way for me to get something out. But I also know I have a readership that's expecting something from me, so I also don't just like blow it off. Like, woo, I got to get on here and publish because people want to read this. So, but I keep it short.
How many words do you find?
About 1,000 words.
1,000 words, yeah.
Yeah, less than 10-minute.
Yeah,
reads.
People don't have much time for more than that. Very cool. Awesome, Rob. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Really,
Great conversation.
Really good conversation. Really fascinating. Also fun for me to plug back into the mindset of elite training. I've kind of gotten out of that was when we shut our SEAL Fit training center down, which was 2019. We went virtual, and most of it was focused around, the Crucible events. And so we got out of all the strength and conditioning work and all the, functional fitness, and that went all virtual. And I kind of miss that, actually. I mean, I've got my own functional gym, but I train with my wife, and I'm not doing cleans and jerks and snatches anymore.
Yeah, there's parts of, owning the gym. That's I don't miss.
Yeah, no, I don't miss.
But I love being a coach.
It was a petri dish of learning. Right?
Yeah, you could test
anything.
Ideas and get feedback very quickly because if you have 150 members and you go like, oh, I want to see how this works out, boy, you figure it out.
Yeah, you learn what works real quick and what doesn't work. Yeah, a lot of the innovation for our SEAL Fit programming, I tested out there. Good, bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
Awesome. Hoo-yah.
Thank you, sir.
All right, folks. Thanks again for tuning into the Mark Divine Show. Super appreciate you walking this path of awesomeness with us and being a great leader and making an impact in the world. Also, I appreciate you sharing this podcast with your friends and colleagues. If you love this conversation with Rob Wilson, then please pay it forward and help others find Rob and also our work here at Unbeatable. So please leave a review and spread the word. Hoo-yah. To learn more about my work, visit unbeatablemind.com or markdevine.com. Discover how you can work directly with me in our personal leadership development and transformation programs. You can follow me on Instagram at markdevineofficial for additional insight, or on my LinkedIn channel and our growing YouTube channel. So hoo-yah. Until next time, check your engine light and be awesome. Hoo-yah.